Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew Patrick here. Now, I had mentioned at one point in one of my earlier videos that I've been doing a lot of reading lately, so I figured I'd go right ahead and show you all the books that I have, at least from right around here, that I've actually been reading, not just from this year, but also from the past year as well as many of the other years in general. So, I'm going to go through it step by step, and let's not waste any more time and get started. Alright, so I actually got a few of the books that I'm going to be bringing out, one by one, and just go right ahead and show it to you on camera of which ones I actually have. So these are all on my crate, by the way, and all these have been read for what I'm going to show you. And I'll go into the ones that I'm reading currently. So, first one I'm going to be bringing up is Cornel West's Democracy Matters. Now this one is actually very good. I've always been interested on reading up on Cornel West because I consider him one of the more intellectual, more intelligent people that I've ever had a chance to hear words come out of the mouth. And yeah, my books are falling off, you son of a bitch. But yeah, very good book. But it's not his best one, though. I will be showing you that if I can somehow find it. Next one we got one from the George Orwell collection with Animal Farm. This one is a very interesting book, and I got a feeling that I saw a movie on this because a lot of it kind of reared back to a movie that I kind of saw during my high school days. And we got the Che Guevara autobiography right here by John Lee Anderson. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. And the autobiography of Long Walk to Freedom, the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. Alright, and we got many other books, and you kind of see one that I'm definitely going to be bringing up shortly, but I'm going to leave that for last. So let's go ahead and go from the bottom. Right here we got the autobiography of Martin Luther King Jr. by Claiborne Carson. And pretty much a Howard Zinn block right here as we get Voices of the People's History of the United States, which is by Howard Zinn and Anthony Arnold. Howard Zinn, basically, we'll get into one of those into detail, but this is an excellent book where you see a bunch of the quotes and everything else in between from the people that Howard Zinn usually cover for in the People's History of the United States. And as you see it right there, of course, the 20th century, which is just basically one of the subtexts or the chapters from the People's History of the United States. And of course, the book that I consider the best book I ever read. Ladies and gentlemen, A People's History of the United States by the one and only Howard Zinn. This book, I can tell you for sure, not only is my favorite book of all time, it pretty much has changed the way I think about the world. I consider Howard Zinn to be one of the greatest historians of all time, as well as one of the most intelligent people that anyone will ever know. And on another note, rest in peace, Howard Zinn. Alright, and we also got many more books that we got right ahead and cover as well. So let's start from the bottom, because there is one I definitely want to get in more depth and save for last on the top. And this one is A Life on the Left, Howard Zinn, which is by Martin Duberman. A very detailed book considering of the one and only Howard Zinn, who was an activist and also one, as I said before, one of the more intelligent people that I've ever had a chance to read on, especially when it comes to history. And you got Bonfire of the Vanities by Tom Wolfe. Pretty good book, I'm not going to lie. And this is the longest book that I ever owned, Roots, by the one and only Alex Haley, whom also has the book that I'm going to be getting into right in a few moments or so, I guess. But very interesting book, very detailed, and I know that there's some bit of controversy, I believe, out of this, with having it being part of passages of another book in the same type of context that Roots was in. But it's still a pretty good book, and I highly recommend it, by the way. But it's not for the faint of heart, just for the record. considering that it's 899 pages long. Alright, and the next one that we got, Big Brother Be Watching. It's 1984 by George Orwell. Now I consider this is definitely a very well thought out book, and considering that he wrote this in 48, and considering the fact that some of the things that are happening now are pretty much what he covered in 84, is just staggering and really scary to think about it. And of course, as I said before, when I showed you Democracy Matters First, I said it was not my favorite Cornel West book. The one I'm going to show you is Race Matters by the one and only Dr. Cornel West. This one was very well detailed, very incisive, and really just being able to kind of describe things about race thoroughly the way that Mr. Cornel West did. I mean, you gotta give it up to the brother. I mean, I know I'm not the most detailed reviewer, but look, I'm showing you these books, so shove it if you got a problem with it. And of course, I'm going to save this one for last, and you probably already know about it just by seeing it. The Autobiography of Malcolm X, also by the one and only Alex Haley. This one was very well detailed and gives in the whole entire sense of what Malcolm X went through throughout his entire life, the hardships in being part of the Nation of Islam, and then later on no longer being part of Elijah Muhammad's coup and being his own man. But really, one of the best books I ever read, hands down. I highly recommend everyone to read this. Alright, now we got more books right over here. We're going to go with the ones on the top this time, from the one and only, the prolific James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain. This one was very interesting. Of course, I bought this years ago, but it took me until this year to actually go ahead and read it. I think that you probably would appreciate this more if you were, I guess, more religious and more in the church type of thing, but it's still good regardless. And now we go into the Puzo collection. We're going to have to actually start off the book that started all with the whole entire Puzo collection, The Godfather, the Fool's Mom, by the said Mario Puzo. Here's a little bit of a story on this. I actually bought this book for a class back when I was still at Binghamton University. And we were actually going to be watching Godfather 2, not the title's sake. Just a sequel of the title's sake, by the way. And very well detailed, and when you see the movie, a lot of the book actually is shown throughout, not just the first one, but a little bit on the second one when you get into Don Corleone's early life when he was in Italy. I do recommend getting that book and reading it, just for your own pleasure. And now we got The Sicilian, which also details the whole entire time that Michael Corleone is in Italy, waiting for his escape. It involves in one other person, I believe. Hold on a sec. Yeah, Salvatore Giuliano. And it definitely details his whole entire flight and where he became a folklore in the sense. And of course, these two are actually the last ones that I've read of Puzo that I actually had completed not too long ago, actually. Here's The Last Don, which is one of his last books before Puzo's death in '99. And definitely very well detailed. Of course, not quite Godfather-like, but it's still a very good read, and I definitely highly recommend for anybody who's a Puzo fan. And of course, his last one, which was, how am I going to say this? Produced posthumously, which actually came into light in '01, even though he was working on it before his '99 death, The Family. Very, very good book, but you definitely kind of have some bit of issues with even some of the characters of the book and how they handled things, but considering of the time and whatnot. But very well detailed and very interesting read, and I do recommend it, by the way. Alright, now I already showed you the ones I had read around last year, this year. These are the ones I actually have had in the midst of it where I have read them, by the way. And might as well kind of show you those right here, right now. We got Why Does the World Exist by Jim Holt. This one was a little bit interesting because I kind of want to kind of know of certain types of things like that, you know, like the deep stuff. And this one's definitely a very interesting book that you can definitely go right ahead and read for your own pleasure. As you see right there is West by West, My Charmed Tormented Life, the autobiography of Jerry West. Definitely very interesting, but I definitely want to reread it just to see how I feel about it now, because it might be different. Oh, also you got 11 Rings by Phil Jackson. Definitely want to read that as well. And you see The Rose That Grew from the Concrete by the one and only Tupac Shakur, aka Machiavelli the Don. And definitely hip-hop's biggest icon in my opinion. And of course you got When the Game Was Ours by Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Where else? And of course you got my favorite basketball player, and better yet, my favorite athlete of all time, Michael Jordan, The Life. It definitely had a lot of things I didn't know about MJ, at least in part of his family, and it's definitely very well detailed and very well done with the author. And definitely all of these, especially When the Game Was Ours, The Life, 11 Rings, and Jerry West's autobiography. Sorry, I had to catch my breath. Those I definitely want to reread at some point, especially when all my readings are done, and you'll kind of see what I'm got left for reading, as well as long for anything else. So let me go right ahead and put these back to where they belong, and I'll show you what's under that crate. Alright, as you see right there, of course I have my games, but they're the ones that have just completed in a span of more recently. So let me go right ahead and pull those out, and we'll get to them one by one. Actually, better yet, let's just pull it out. So we got the one I actually recently just finished, Asada, an autobiography by the one and only Asada Shakur. A very excellent book, and definitely one where you get a lot of details of what she had to go through, her experience with the Black Panther Party, and everything else in between, and the injustice from the justice system that will make you actually want to question everything. And the next one out of the Cornel West files, The Black Prophetic Fire by Cornel West, which is basically a conversation between him and the co-author Krista Buschendorf. Hope I'm saying that right. But yeah, very well educated and kind of giving their thoughts of some of the black people that brought in that prophetic fire, per se. And the next one right here is The Untold History of the United States by Oliver Stone and Peter Kuznick. Very well detailed, I must say, about, you know, the whole entire history of the United States as far as foreign policy goes and everything else in between. And can definitely be a good precursor for People's History of the United States, in my personal opinion. And speaking of that, Howard Zinn with Howard Zinn Speaks, which is basically a collection of speeches that he had made throughout '63 up until his last full year of living, 2009. Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train, A Personal History of Our Times with a New Preface, Howard Zinn. Howard Zinn on Race. And The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Color Blindness by Michelle Alexander. Very well detailed and very eye-opening book. Just what's going on with this whole entire, the way it is in the jails and having it being massively incarcerated by African Americans and everything else in between. And The Cornel West Reader by Cornel West himself. Alright, let me put these back. Alright, and as I will say, I'm moving on now to actually books that I'm currently reading and ones I have left to read. And there is one I actually forgot that was in the game room that I will go back into later. So, right here is what I'm reading right now, The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. I've heard a lot of great things about this book, and I figured I might as well go right ahead and read it. I'm enjoying it thus far. Very well detailed, especially considering of, the timeline throughout Nazi Germany through the eyes of a little girl who decides to steal books. And now, here's the ones that I have left to read. I got I Am the Messenger, also by Markus Zusak. And I got a couple of Ernest Hemingway books here, For Whom the Bell Tolls and The Sun Also Rises. And then, the one that I think was more recently released, Tavis Smiley's The Covenant with Black America 10 years later. I'm definitely looking forward to reading these, and I hope that I enjoy these for what they are and for what they represent. And the other one that I forgot to kind of show you was The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. That will probably be my last reading throughout all of these. And the main reason why I did all these readings is that I wanted to make sure that during all those readings I was able to keep my mind sharp, even if somehow everything turns into mush. I want to still keep my brain intact, my memories intact, and be able to be as sharp as I've ever been. Well, and that's really all about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different from what I have been posting. I might take myself a little bit of a hiatus for the record. I still have yet to really get a lot of feedback, so that could be a main reason, but I kind of just want to kind of break that up a little bit and kind of do some personal stuff like showing you my book collection. And actually, if you count all the ones I actually have in my family room or in my room that I've had from my childhood, it's really a lot more. So I've been doing a lot of reading, and I've just rekindled it basically from the past years. And not to mention, ever since college, it's kind of been really more so of me reading, because I did a lot of that when I was at BU especially. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Stay real, everyone.